Having played Lineage 2 on the official European server for a couple of days and having respectively shared my first impressions that a new player might get from playing it for the first time, I thought that I will not return to the MMO genre for a while. Little did I know that Instagram was spying on me the whole time and decided to show me a couple of posts with cosplay creators promoting a game that I have never heard of. ELYON was described as one of the best, if not the best, online action RPG with unique style and setting, while being completely free. I could not objectively deny the credibility of the promoters, who have only been showing the wallpapers of the game instead of the real screenshots, and I decided to try to emulate the new player experience once again, because this time I was a new player. I register a new account on ELYON's official website, download the launcher and immediately get a notification that the game is not available in my country. That was upsetting for a moment, as I thought myself to be a third world peasant who is not developed enough to play the game. Then I've discovered that it has a Steam version, and with the help of online magic, I got the game to work, because I was too dedicated to experience the same feelings of excitement and enjoyment that were promised to me by the cosplayers. Little did I know that it loads forever to even start. I understand that the first launch of any video game is relatively longer than the next launches, but the game took several minutes to even load the starting screen, and I am more than sure that the reason of this was not my PC, as it is capable of running all the current AAA games on high settings flawlessly. Finally, I got to the starting screen. I witness a large purple portal that mysteriously opens in front of my eyes. It immediately drags me into these colorful saturated tunnels of purple mass, preparing me to enter a new magical world, and for a second I actually felt hyped about the starting screen. I almost said, wow, just to be suddenly interrupted by the strangest screens ever possible. I was required to choose a color scheme of the whole game.
No filters, your whole life is a filter, son.
Disappointed, I proceeded with the default option and was met with the faction choice, the Team Red and Team Blue. The game recommended me the Team Blue, which meant that I chose Team Red because they were less noble but more practical than the Blue. Then, the character creation screen. It featured different races, starting from humans and elves to this abomination, and introduced me to the main classes in the game. The classes were introduced more than decently, as they were well explained, their major weapons and skills were shown clearly, and their roles in combat were also pretty clear, and explanations did not overwhelm me with unnecessary details. Sadly, the racial choices did not affect the classes and did not seem to affect the skills and other characteristics. In other words, the races were more of a fashion choice rather than a role-playing one. A quick note in this regard, I appreciate that the male characters are represented with at least slight relation to the physiological reality of humanoids, and the female characters were not excessively sexualized, at least during the character creation stage. Still, I decided to at least attempt a role-playing game by creating a big orc character with even bigger two-handed sword. I've given him a proper name and started my adventure in ELYON. Now, what is this?
We finally opened the gate of ELYON, and the inventors depart to reach for the hope beyond ELYON. However, our path led not to hope, but despair. We battled bravely to defend the inventors, only to fall, helpless against an endless swarm of enemies. Now, the last hope to save the inventors is you.
This cutscene does show a lot, but does not make a lot of sense. We do not get an explanation of what is ELYON, what is Inventors, and why are we supposed to save it. Moreover, it does not explain why are we in this cocoon. Why? Are we some sort of artificial life that was developed for this specific purpose? Or are we somewhat connected to this cocoon? So, this girl, Lilith, apparently saves us from the cocoon, which I was entrapped in. She tells me that Inventors is an ark, and we are being attacked by an unknown force, so I'm supposed to save it. I don't know why do they put such trust in me if I was already stuck in the alien cocoon, and I might appear in it for the second time. In total, the beginning section feels off. and does not provide any context for further narration. In ELYON, I don't know who I am, I don't know why I'm here, all I know is that I must kill. Lilith gives me the sword and asks me to equip it. Oh my god, what is this? Why is everything transparent? Why does the UI is written in such a small text, and what am I supposed to do with all of this?
What are you still doing here? A hunter must hunt.
So, the best thing I could do is to click the items with arrows, hoping that it will suffice to move on. The first impression of all these buttons and semi-transparent slots is overwhelming. I'm not directly against the complex UI, to be honest, but the game needs to introduce its parts by portions, for example, or one at a time. For example, if the starting section of the game requires me to equip a sword, just show me the inventory and the character screen. I don't need anything else. While I'm trying to read all the text given to me by the UI, Lilith decides to run away and to deliver a speech bubble to me that I miss, because it simply blends with the text of UI. Okay then, let's move. The game features traditional WSD movement scheme, but the action camera seems to be in a different position that is above the character. As a new MMO player, I'm not really used to such camera, so it feels kinda bad for now. Next, the game teaches me how to evade with the shift button. Cool. I bet more tutorials afterwards will be like this and will teach me by doing, and not dumping me with the loads of bland text. Next, Lilith decides to lay down for a while after being electrocuted by ungrounded wire and tells me she needs to look after Hector. Who is Hector, you might ask? I don't know. I'm also not sure what's going on with the sound and voice acting of the game, but it's more important to save Hector for now. Moving around the corner, I get the first combat encounter, which can be completed by holding left click. And for some reason, despite my character holding a big massive sword and slashing the enemies like a grand hero, I could not feel any weight of the weapon, any feedback and any sound effects that could have made the combat responsive. But I hope this is just the beginning section just to get the basic foundation of the combat, and it will get better soon. Having defeated the giant spider, I get to meet Hector, who is being imprisoned nearby. Once again, he asks me to save Inventus and surprisingly doesn't ask me to release him for some reason. I proceed to slashing enemies and it started feeling somewhat better, especially when I used the skills. The animations of the combat skills were flashy and epic. The sounds of hits and enemy feedback seemed to work just fine. Overall, the skills were more fun to use than simply left-clicking the enemies. Having detected me having fun with the skills, the game decides that it's time to learn a new one, and it insists on opening the skills menu. And the opened window of skills seems overwhelming, like the rest of the UI. Gladly, it makes the skill learning and management easier by highlighting the Learn Skill button. Overall, the skills menu feels like the most polished system in the game, but we will return to it later. For now, we learn the serial power strike and move forward. I defeat another great monster too quickly, and immediately I get a loud voice message from some Maria, saying that now I need to come to the what?
The Inventus is being swarmed by the enemy. If anyone is listening to this, you must come to the Tree of Sephiroth at once.
To the Tree of Sephiroth at once. I guess this means that I've saved Inventus or what? I'm not joking, guys, I'm totally confused in this regard. What is going on and what am I supposed to do? I don't know. So apparently I did not save Inventus yet, as I am still on the arc and I need to speak to the Golden Lady, who suddenly feels sorry that we have lost both Lilith and Hector, despite the fact that they were very alive when I left them. She asked me to draw the power from the tree in some medallion, and doesn't tell me why she couldn't have done it herself already. I draw the purple energy and the lady sends me off.
Do me a favor. Yeah. Fuck up upstairs.
To fight the bad guys. We keep slashing the bad guys, level up and then see them respawn immediately. That's a sense of achievement like never before. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Next, the god asks me to save the local children who are located 2 meters near him. I complete the quest, I immediately level up, I immediately get a new armor and learn a new skill. And it seems too much. It seems overwhelming again. At the same time, I like how the new skills are explained and introduced. They are even shown in short animation to actually see what they do. That's a nice touch that I believe more games need to have inside, especially the ones relying on the use of complex skills during the battle. Then I get a quest, a portion of monsters to slash to complete it, then I get a reward with level up, a new item and a skill. After a while, I'm being treated to an epic boss introduction who transforms our allies into enemies, and we have to fight everyone. It turns out to be a quick but quite decent battle, to be honest. It seems that we are winning our enemies. Turns out, no. There is even more of them, and we get to the turret to bombard them with heavy guns. We shoot everyone until a great dragon attacks and destroys the turret, so we keep his face with a sword. And it's not enough, we still lose the battle in the cutscene, which makes us use the energy drawn from the Sephiroth tree. Eventually the dragon disappears, but the energy opens a portal that drags us out of the tutorial section to the great unknown. After the tutorial section, the game begins and it feels like a time wasted for naught. We have lost all connection to the previous characters, the setting of the Inventus arc and the horde of mechanized monsters chasing us. Instead we are being met by a girl with a big stick and a short dress that starts bossing us around for some reason, and for some reason we are required to follow her. I meet Hagrid and start losing all interest in his story, especially taking into account that it's hard to hear him properly. The floating text bubbles also do not help, as they are hard to read and not interesting to read. And this is a shame, because the sound acting is decent and acceptable, but the differences in volumes are unbearable. Some characters are too quiet, some are too loud, and some I cannot hear at all.
Helped. Guess we should return to base camp.
Isn't here right now. We'll have to wait to report to the Senior Knight about this.
It seems that compression could be used on audio before promoting the game with cosplayers. As for the combat, I got used to it. It was especially fun and engaging to use the skills in specific order to build up a whole combination of movements. For a moment, it felt somewhat close like a budget version of Devil May Cry. The left click is still bad and feels like I was slashing through and not hitting the enemies. Well, I guess the game does not want me to simply left click everything. Hagrid explains how their world works and tells me that I'm supposed to work with them against their competing faction. I guess that's because I've chosen the red faction and now I need to find the blue. I believe the blue team gets the attention of different NPCs and I hope they are treated to better character movements and voices. And yes, the game keeps on dumping text explanations to do stuff, and there is a lot of stuff. You create equipment, you dismantle it for parts, you upgrade all your materials and runes, the runes give you the passive bonuses, you can customize the skills to behave differently, etc, 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 etc. Once again, I feel like the skill system is the best among all other systems, because it offers an array of representations of skills and their modifiers that are recommended. And you can experiment freely with the skills, their attributes, their effects, etc. That's the freedom of choice that I like the most. And after I'm done with the skills, I get a voice message from the BTS stating that they need me.
You were alive after all. I almost lost you due to the distortion of time. Follow my voice.
To be honest, I do not care about them and their requirements. I want to check all the items in the game that I have for now. The items are not really explained, and I had to check the description of everything by myself. Turns out, there are various bonuses, various tokens and coins, various upgrade items and chests that are being poured on me, which starts making me think. If the game pours a lot of free stuff on me, it means that this stuff has little to no value. This is the problem that I see with the game so far. It tries so hard to deliver the sense of instant gratification that it eventually feels like I've got nothing valuable to achieve for now. Upon taking to the BTS, I decide to take a pause for a moment and admire the graphical fidelity of the game. And it looks really great, I gotta admit that. Despite the fact that I don't really like the shiny and glittering textures of armor and buildings, the world itself seems to be properly designed. It introduces different wild areas, with encampments that have different NPCs, with their little problems that we are to solve. It actually can be immersive if you stop for a moment and admire the view.
Where are you? Get over here already!
Fuck you all.
So, Carmen sends us on another quest. We talk with another NPC, slay more monsters and complete the quest. That actually summarized the entire story gameplay, which is not necessarily bad, as the combat is acceptable and after a couple of hours of getting used to and ignoring the left click, it became relatively fun. The community seems to be friendly and helpful, the NPCs have given me a hoverboard, which is slower than using the auto-run function, but we don't use boards for speed, we use the boards for style. So, when the story quests end, I am required to level up to a necessary level to progress, which is okay, I guess. Maybe? I don't know. I am a new player, I don't know how everything works in the MMO genre. I get the quests from the NPCs and they seem the same as the story quests. slay the monsters, gather items, and don't show your face here ever again. What is strange, immediately after I reach a required level, I am being met with a new story quest and I am required to go there. The game does not give me options to explore the world, to complete the remaining quests, to engage in other forms of content. Instead, it seems to rush me every moment to progress through the main story faster. The side quests, by the way, can offer you surprises like carrying boxes. The dungeons in the side quests are fun and offers a nice change of pace from a rather stale story. There are even quests of collecting gold in front of a dragon and gathering resources from flying islands. It's a strange feeling when the side activities are more fun than the story content. As a reward for the dungeon, the game has given me a lot of chests and boxes, and when I opened them, what did I get?
It's a box of dingalings, son!
Eventually, I decided to pause the game and have a rest with the fishing. It's a rather interesting and clever system that requires some patience and practice. It's a nice touch that actually contributed to the immersion feeling of the game. Having caught another fish, I discovered that I've got no free space left in my inventory and started looking for either a stash or any means of expanding my storage capacity. This points to another problem in the game. The game overloads the player with free items and gifts, armor and weapons, leading to the inventory getting filled too quickly. The only options for freeing space were destroying items, dismantling them, or selling them to an NPC vendor. Only after level 36, I am being introduced to the so-called home mechanic, which contains all the storages and crafting possibilities. It actually takes at least 4 hours to get to this section, which is not that great, especially for the players who like crafting and trading aspects of online games better than combat. The home system is pretty neat, to be honest. It feels like a customizable hideout with storage, gathering and crafting possibilities. I do believe, however, that the system should have been introduced much earlier in the game. Crafting is engaging and interesting. The only thing that could be improved is the addition of auto-crafting after the first successful attempt, just to make sure that we do not watch the same animation for 30th, 50th, 100th time. The final point of the game is the monetization system. As a new player, I never felt any requirement or urge to spend anything at all to improve my gaming experience. I guess that the microtransactions might be more relevant in the endgame, but I also assume that if a new player progresses to the endgame, they might be more inclined to support the developers. In total, let me summarize my first impressions and describe what you might expect during the first hours of playing ELYON. The overall experience of the game was neither good nor bad. Certain aspects of the game, like introduction of the skills and recommended builds, are good characteristics that I wish more games could have given to the players. Crafting and developing own house was also fun and engaging. At the same time, the story, the sound design and voice acting, the combat, the user interface and the excessive number of mechanics that is hard to remember and master all at once, all of these aspects require additional polish and quality check. Because when the combat becomes tighter and punchier with a better feedback, when the sound design discovers the miracles of sound compression, when the world itself becomes more immersive and the NPCs don't push me to engage with them, it might actually be a strong action RPG with online elements. As a new player, I do not think that I'll play it again in the nearest future until at least the combat gets polished. Moreover, I do not think that I felt any urge to support the game with my money and buy any microtransactions. At the same time, I feel that there is much more to the game that I've discovered during the first hours, and that's why maybe I will return to it in a year or two. Who knows? And that's it for today. If you want more videos with MMO first impressions, drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to ring the bell for notifications and leave a comment about your first impressions of the game, whether they were different and whether you will advise new players to start their ELYON adventure in the nearest future. Once again, thanks for watching, my name is Alex B and I'll see you in the next one.